Hello and welcome, especially if you're a student in engineering or considering engineering, because I think it's very important you understand how this entire process works of how materials degrade and corrode. So if you're new to this area, there's going to be a lot of new and interesting information. You are going to learn about how you can harness electricity from atoms. It's pretty cool. This concept is so powerful, you see it absolutely everywhere where it can be installed. As an engineer, learning how electrochemistry is the result of degradation and corrosion will make you a valuable asset. I could have worded that better, but essentially what I'm saying is the result of degradation and corrosion in metals is a result of electrochemistry. But first, you need to understand degradation and corrosion and dissolution and deterioration. There's a few ways that materials can not be the material they were originally before. So pay careful attention, and don't worry, you'll be paid back in how much you paid in attention when you get a job. So if you pay 100% attention, guess what? That's going to reflect in your salary. That's my theory anyway. So, everything in this universe is made up of something, otherwise it would not exist. This means the air you breathe is not just a light empty space where you can throw paper planes through, but is a bustling zoo of elements which are constantly transforming and bumping into each other. This may not seem so fantastic when you're talking about air and paper planes or rusty spoons, but if you unpack how materials interact with each other, you'll begin to realize that such a thing can happen in hundreds of ways, if not in a Google of ways. So nuclear chemistry looks at how we can harness the power between the binding forces of atoms. Biology looks at how life can be made possible through macroscopic chemical interactions, and psychology looks at how the tiny neurons and external interactions of the world filter through to make you. So yes, material interactions are one of the privileges engineers are bestowed with when they earn their degree, along with many other fields. So, we're going to look at how the three primary engineering materials interact, namely our ceramics, polymers, and metals. Ceramics hardly undergo any interaction with the environment due to the atomic configuration, comprising of ultra-stable atomic configurations. They've got the most stable atomic configurations, so they don't really do much. But the only way a ceramic will deteriorate is through extreme circumstances, such as high temperatures. Polymers, they degrade. They don't corrode or deteriorate. This is important. So they often dissolve in solvents, they absorb solvents and they swell. Sometimes they are damaged through electromagnetic radiation or UV light, which is EMR. And this alters their atomic structures because they're relatively weak in comparison to ceramics, which is why you should wear sunscreen, because your DNA is a polymer. It will degrade if you don't cover up. So this is a trick that I use to remember that polymers degrade, they don't deteriorate, they don't corrode, whatever. So if you're an A+ student, your grades are set to be high. But if you spend 20 years amongst lots of people who don't have good grades, you will degrade. That is, your academic ability will be destroyed. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Just like the polymer, if you put it in an environment where it is surrounded by lots of degrading chemicals, it will degrade. So, onto metals. Now, unlike ceramics, which only respond to high temperatures and not acidic or basic solutions because acids and bases donate protons, as well as some electrons in some cases. Ceramics, because their atomic configuration is so stable, they don't do anything. And polymers, they do degrade due to alterations in their atomic structure because they're not as stable as our ceramics. They have room to accept protons against their will, and yes, if they are hit with electromagnetic radiation, it will cause some bad things in the electron field. So that's right, wear sunscreen. Now, metals actually lose their material to the environment. They dissolve, and if you can actually sort of find the word lose in dissolve, so that's how you can remember that metals dissolve. So metals either undergo corrosion or dissolution, as well as oxidation, which is just the formation of a metallic scale or film. So now you can see that degradation, deterioration, corrosion, dissolution, or oxidation is just what happens when one of the three primary materials interact with a chemical which causes it to lose its characteristics. That's all it is, and they have special names to distinguish them. So you're probably thinking, okay, which chemicals, which environments, what do I need to watch out for with polymers? Like, I understand I sort of need to wear sunscreen and, at the beach, so, my DNA doesn't get destroyed, but what else, when, as an engineer, should I look out for when I want to build certain things? Which chemicals? Like, if I want to build something in the ocean, what do I need to look out for? There are lots of things you need to look out for. This is why it takes so long to get a degree. So, in summary, everything is atoms. Atoms have electrons, which can be transferred to change the property of another atom. This can happen at very large scales and in millions of different ways. Engineers only care about the material interactive risks of designing structures. So if they're going to design something, they want to know that part of the material interaction side of things. You know, they're not going to look at psychology or biology or nuclear chemistry. They might, but generally they want to see how things work around the building side of things. Now, ceramics do not deteriorate unless they are exposed to high temperatures. Polymers degrade in solvents and electromagnetic radiations, and metals corrode, dissolve, or form a metallic scalar film, which is known as oxidation. This is pretty important. Now, one last thing I want to leave you guys with is that all materials eventually deteriorate. Since ceramics don't have too much happening, they don't get a special name like metals or polymers when they deteriorate. So ceramics just deteriorate, and yeah, polymers degrade, metals dissolve, corrode, or oxidate. Alright, thanks for watching, guys, and good luck for your exams, or your degree, whatever you're studying. Just read, practice questions.